We're here to review episodes of Pokemon Horizons. We are finally back. It's good to be back with the Rising Voltacklers. So we're going to go ahead and review some of the episodes that I didn't get to review because Tyrone TD3 messed it all up. So we're reviewing we're reviewing the Levincia arc is what I like to call it. I call it the Levincia City arc because that's where pretty much all of this takes place in. Those are episodes 15 and 16. Episode 15 being titled Someone We Can't See, Who's a What's It, and then episode 16 As Long As I'm with Quaxley. These two episodes are basically just the ending result of what happened in the last episode with Spinel. But now we jump into the thick of it. We see that Liko is got her memory pretty much wiped based on how she got Sprigatito, or at least what brought her and Sprigatito together. I like the way they handle the hypnosis here because she fully establishes that Sprigatito is her Pokemon, but she's not quite sure what brought them together. Like the way the memory is working is that it's taking out the parts of the memory that are important, but still kept the fact that there's the details there. She knows Sprigatito is her Pokemon. She just doesn't know her history with the Rising Voltacklers and like everything her and Sprigatito have had coming together. She knows of them, but she doesn't know like the adventure she's gone on up to this point. And I thought that was interesting. I thought it was a lot more nuanced than just having her completely forget like who she is or who Sprigatito is. Because that would have been, I guess that would have been a lot messier, but I think it's a little too soon to have a complete memory wipe. I think that would have been kind of weird. I think it's a lot better to handle it this way. Although I will say, I think it's too soon to have a memory wiping plot anyway. But if this is the way they're going to handle it, then I'm not going to complain too much. I think it was fine. And then obviously, we see that while all of that is taking place, Liko's pendant is also missing. And we get to do this cool little like tag match. It's kind of cool how they brought Ayano in. They bring Ayano in by having her do the exact same challenge she does in the video games, in the Scarlet and Violet video games. So I'm glad they were able to implement that, but implement in a way that feels comfortable towards the plot. And so now Liko just run away from all these people. I wish she had got to battle a couple of more trainers, though. That's my one gripe. I wish she had battled a few more trainers. And I wish some of those trainers were a lot like more competent. Because it's weird to see that pretty much everybody she fought was either completely incompetent or the battle didn't really have much conclusion. And I get it. The battle wasn't meant to be an all-out battle. It was meant to be like they're going to tag her and catch her situation. But I still wish that the battles had been ongoing for a little bit longer. That's my one criticism on that. Just because, I don't know, battles and Horizons can range anywhere from like dramatically anticlimactic and short to like really beautiful and like long, full-fledged battle. It feels like they hop back and forth. But there's no middle ground between it. Like, I think the closest we've gotten into was Roy fighting off against Brassius. And even that battle felt like it was a little underwhelming for certain parts of it. And my guess is that they're saving the bigger battles for the confrontation against mostly the explorers. But I can definitely see that some of those battles have gone down a little bit. Overall, though, I really enjoyed how Dot and Roy came together. I love that Roy immediately recognizes who Dot is just based on the Quaxley's behavior. And then they come together and they eventually are able to catch up with Liko. And thanks to them, they're able to bring Liko's memory back when Liko remembers. She basically looks at the moon and remembers, like, oh, Sprigatito and I came together that way. I can definitely feel this had the idea to be a little bit longer because most plots like this do go longer, but they probably didn't want to drag it out. I think they just didn't want to drag it out to its longest. So I think this is a pretty decent length. Not the greatest, but not the worst. I can handle a length that's about this long. I'm not against this at all. When Liko finally does make the jump and meet up with Roy and Dot, we see that they all get back together and plan for a counterattack. I am curious about the second episode where Freed ends up fighting this one dude with Bisharp. And he's like, oh, this is the wrong guy. But the guy seemed a little too important to just pass up. I'm guessing the series wants to save that guy for a little bit later or something. I don't know what's going on with that. But it was weird to see that was like the distraction that kept them busy for a little while. But that was mostly to keep Freed out of the picture, because if Freed had joined Liko, Roy, and Dot, the battle would have been over in pretty much an instant. Because Freed had already figured out the combo behind the whole talking to the Pokemon via the microphone situation. So he probably already has counters for it. So when they head over, though, we do see that when they reach the docks, they end up meeting up with Magneton and Behemoth and have like basically a double battle with Dot holding her own. I will say it's weird, and I do like the idea that Dot had to fight by herself, but Quaxley was taking a beating. Like, Quaxley was getting hit by Electro Ball a lot. It weirds me out that Quaxley was still able to fight. Also, we learned that Quaxley was never caught in the first place. Dot winds up catching Quaxley the minute the episode starts. And I find that interesting, too. I'm guessing they just, like, had a mutual bond with each other, and then Quaxley decided that, oh, now that Dot has finally come out of the ship and is becoming more of a personal active member, now's the time to go ahead and be caught. So that was cool. I like the joke with Dot throwing the Pokeball and it just woo 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 woo. That's pretty funny. She's malnourished, so obviously the Pokeball throw isn't gonna be at a full strength. I do like that idea. That's actually pretty fun. One thing I am hoping to see as time passes is that Dot ends up eating healthier and becoming stronger. And then by the time we see Dot towards the end of the series, she even like cuts her hair a little bit so it looks a lot nicer. And she's just a lot like she's become a better person because of it. It'll be kind of like Wally, where the story was that Wally's breathing wasn't that good at the beginning of Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, but towards the end of the journey, he's able to like travel everywhere and do these things and go to places that he couldn't go before because his health has gotten better because he's become a Pokemon trainer. I do hope we do like that subtle evolution of Dot's character. That's what I'm, when it comes to Dot, that's the most thing I'm interested in is her evolution as a character from the introvert to the stronger, much more competent, more confident type of character. I think that's a good arc for her. Anyway, when we move forward, Liko and Roy show up, and I do like Liko, Roy, and Dot's like frame shot. It's the one that everybody posted on Twitter where it shows all three of them like facing off and stuff. It's a cool shot. Like, I don't care if you love the series or hate the series. That's a badass shot. That's a pretty cool shot, especially with them and their starters. It's a really cool shot. The battle itself, though, it's aight. Sadly, I hate to say it, it's aight. That's pretty much the voting I've had for most of Pokemon Horizons when it comes to a lot of their battles that weren't the beginning series battles. It's been aight. And that's only because I'm assuming they're taking very slow but necessary steps to make the Pokemon stronger. So after a while, the Pokemon will gain strength and become a lot better as time passes, and thus will be treated to better battles. And honestly, I think that's cool, because then it means you can look back on some of the older stuff and be like, hey, they were much weaker at this point. Then when we cut to like when they're Quavel, Skeledirge, and Mouskerata, and they fight, you get to see them fight with like a way cooler quality, way better. It's a great way to like allow for lower budget battles to slowly evolve along with the trainer's skills. But that also means that once they get into better battles, they're locked into better battles. But if it's a slow burn, I think that's fine considering the steps that each episode is taking for that level of progression. And I do want to talk about that too very briefly, because a lot of people are on the fence about how Pokemon Horizons is in terms of its progression of its characters. And I really am going to focus on some of that during my next review for the next episode, episode 17, which will be Watchel and Fuecoco's Secret Training. But for now, I want to focus on 15 and 16. Overall, I like the premise. I like the fact that the trainers were able to fight. I love that when they did end up beating Behemoth and Magneton for his weirdly... I don't know. I feel the starters shouldn't have been able to straight up beat them. And they didn't. But I feel like they had way too much of an advantage considering Charizard even took an ass whooping from Magneton and Beheem. It's weird to me that Sprigatito, Fuecoco, and Quaxley were able to hold their own. But he probably underestimated them, and thus they were able to like throw him off guard, which I guess that would technically be a spinal mistake at that point. But I do love that when Umbreon comes out, he basically Meggy Dolans the entire crew by using like the bark out, and it like freaking, or the Dark Pulse and slash bark out, it freaking like blows them all away. It's like it's crazy. I think it's called Snarl in English. But yeah, it like knocks them all back. It's crazy how he basically goes boss mode on them. Now, obviously, Lico's Pendix kind of saves her at last minute by doing like the shine and falling and flying out. So Lico got a cheap win on that one. But I will say, I mean, I guess it's fine for now. We're starting to get like into the beginnings of it, and we're still relying on that. Yeah, it's kind of but at the exact same time, I'm not, it's been a while since the pendant's done that, so I'm not going to hold it too far against. I think the last time we saw it was during when Lico almost got hit by Cerulege, and then the next time we almost see it was when during the Rayquaza situation against Team Explorers. So it's two situations where that's happened. This is the third. I think we're good. I think 3 times is the necessary amount of times that Terapagos pre-evolved form, or Terapagos, just Terapagos, is, yeah, because unfortunately they spoiled that. The video game spoiled that. Terapagos, it was Terapagos. So I would love an apology from all of y'all who said that wasn't Terapagos when I gave the review a while back. I said it was Terapagos. People said it wasn't Terapagos. It's Terapagos. It's just Terapagos in its weaker form. But no, gloating aside, I thought it was really cool just to see that the Shine activates the ancient Pokeballs, which means that Arboliva was able to come out. It was weird that Arboliva didn't actually fight, though. It wound up just becoming a boat for the heroes to sail across to meet up with Freed and Charizard. But I think Umbreon and Spinel by default knew that Arboliva was too much to fight right now. Like, it would have been just too much of a hassle to deal with, so they just opted not to fight it. Does that mean Lico technically has access to all the ancient Pokemon? Or when she gets the Pokeballs? Maybe, but I hope she does wind up catching her own Pokemon anyway. And as we see from the future episodes, it looks like that may be the case. But for now, I definitely would say the Levincia City arc, episodes 15, 16, were definitely really good to look at. I also love the aesthetic of it being at nighttime. We rarely get a lot of at-night moments, or at least full at-night arcs in Pokemon. It was cool to see that one took place at night. That was actually pretty cool to watch. Honestly, I think it was pretty cool. I had a good time watching those 2 episodes together. It was a good time watching the bond between Dot, Roy, and Lico come together in order to fight off against Spinel. Spinel's a very good boss. And we see at the end of it that multiple Team Explorers members are showing up now. We're getting a lot more OC characters from this that aren't just grunts. We're seeing people with like more differentiated designs, and that definitely makes things a lot interesting. So with that all being said, a lot of interesting stuff to go, and I'm glad we took that time to do that arc. And technically, even though I say 15 and 16, I want to say that arc probably began at episode 13. So from episode 13 to episode 16, I want to say that's pretty much where the whole arc took place. It was pretty much a 4-episode arc, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Because that's clearly, to me, that's clearly where the whole arc is going. If I had to give both episodes a score, I'm going to go ahead and sit at an 8 out of 10. I think an 8 out of 10 is definitely a good spot for those 2 episodes. The arc as a whole definitely would receive an 8 out of 10 as well, just because I think it was well handled. I think the picnic transition into Wattrel, the Wattrel stuff, the Magneton stuff, the free dealing with Spinel, being introduced to Spinel hypnotizing Lico reuniting with the others, Dot coming out in order to save Lico, and then the 3 coming together to fight Spinel. And then finally, we also have the reveal, which finally ends the joke, by the way. Now Lico's going to have more jokes, but we finally ended the whole Lico is oblivious to Dot being Nito thing. We finally ended that joke once and for all because Dot finally confesses that she is Nito thing. She just flat out tells her. And the reaction is hilarious for the time being. But I'm just glad we're done with the joke. Like, I'm pretty much glad that the joke is over. Which means we'll probably open the doorway to some new jokes, like her just being awestruck at it. But as of now, I think this is fine. I think this is a fine conclusion for our characters. And obviously it gives us a chance to have a beat now. To have a chance to, like, focus on other things, interactions between characters, focus on the group as a whole. I hope they don't go straight to Galar. I'm hoping that we get a chance to really, like, absorb them becoming people, becoming friends, becoming a group, becoming closer to each other as a crew. So that being said, that the next episode is titled, like I said before, Watch One for Coco's Secret Training, which I'll technically wind up having to review that one right after, even though the episode has ended. But definitely expect those reviews to be coming out normally, just like they were as well. So with that being said, I'll see you all then, everybody. Tyrone, TG3, out.
Yeah, I'm happy because that was my answer.
I need to watch that. That's a bunch of Yes!
Oh,
we can't make it. Yeah, we're not Sonic. We're not. I come in with blue eyes. I got something for your blue eyes, boy.